Okay, so last week we talked about Sabbath, and I just want to give a quick review, and I don't want to dwell on it, obviously, because we want to talk about some practical ways to practice Sabbath. I think Sabbath is something that we think about a lot. We wish we would do, but we're not sure how to do it. And at the same time, we don't want to do it. So we have a complicated relationship with it, but we desire it because the ideal of rest is kind of inbred in us and coded into us that we can't just work 24/7. There has to be, even just at the level of just keeping this physical body intact, that we need some sort of rest, and we all recognize that. But Bible also recognizes, okay, not only do you need physical rest from work, but that making of space by resting from physical work, you're making room for other things. So if you're taking stuff out of a container, the purpose is not to keep it empty, but you want to fill it back with something new, something different. And that's what Sabbath does. So if you take a bowl that you eat your food with, like sometimes I visit people's house and they put dirt in there and they plant something and leave it by the kitchen window. So if you put dirt in there, it's going to become a flower pot. I mean, that's how you want to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you recognize that this is a food bowl and it's best used for that purpose, to fill it with food, and you enjoy that sustenance with people around you, then I think it just takes a different purpose and different direction. So Sabbath is that. Looking at our bowl and saying, okay, oh my gosh, like life can't be just about what's in here, which is work and labor done to make money, to progress in life. So there has to be something else. And so we're trying to understand how to rest. And it's not just dumping out all the work so that you'll never have to work again, because work is also from God. But sort of balancing work and balancing rest and having right biblical perspective, godly perspective on what Sabbath is, so that your work is affected, that you're working sabbatically. You're not a slave married to money, but you're working to glorify God. Okay, so that's sort of an overview. Sabbath is a gift. It's for spiritual, physical rest, and it's a day of salvation. As I share with you, that it's when Israelites were pulled out of Egypt, it was to celebrate Sabbath, to worship on Sabbath. And that was done so that God would not only free them from slavery, but to have relationship with him. And Sabbath in the New Testament is not only all of those things, but it's a day of joy and rest and contemplating upon your salvation and your relationship with God. It's not another rule so that you have to do it to make you feel guilty, but it is for you, that you would truly, truly benefit and grow from that. So yeah, I think I'll just stop there. If you have any questions, please let me know. There we go, chat open. Okay. So any question thus far? I'm just going to move on. So when it comes to, so what we talked about so far is sort of biblical and theological stands and what Sabbath is. But let's talk about then, okay, great, awesome. How do we practice this thing? Okay, so there are 5 things I want to talk about, but number 5 is what I want to dwell most on. Okay, so number 1 is your resting, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later. It's a day of rest, so you gotta rest from something. You gotta stop doing something, right? And we will talk more about that. But you really have to get into your mind. I'm not a machine. My life is not about sacrificing time And as Abraham Herschel said, the human being sacrificed time in order to gain more space, such as bigger house, bigger car. So people who are running after bigger cars and bigger space are sacrificing time. And God is not only God of space, but he's also God of time. And he felt that God is more God of time than space. But I mean, he's a genius, but I would just beg to differ because, I mean, what are you going to do about the promised land, right? The space. But anyway, he felt that as a Jewish person, God is God of time more than space. So maybe he's true. Maybe he's right. So you need to rest. So you need to sort of carve out time somehow. And second thing is that you want this day to be holy. So you're not resting from, you know the saying, thank God it's Friday, and then you go just drinking and getting hammered and meet the opposite gender, and hopefully that she will like you or he will like you, and then something magic will spark or something. You want to keep it holy, not just pleasure, like carnal pleasure. Okay. And three is it is really wonderful if you can start Sunday with a moment of contemplation. And that is to say, just take a couple of deep breaths, and in the morning, maybe in the washroom, and just say, wow, I am saved. And God, he has given me rest to say, I saved you for free. I made you free of charge. You're my beloved. I am saved. So if you enter into worship like that, and that really takes like 2 minutes or maybe even a minute, and if that's the attitude that you bring to church, like, oh my gosh, like it's a different worship. Songs will sound different and sermons will sound 10 times better. So it's really a day of contemplation. You need to think about your salvation. So I really want to encourage you to do that. And that's a day to do something good rather than doing nothing. So Sabbath is not day of leisure where you and I just kick back and open up a cold one and just look at the birds and clouds pass by, but it's day to do something good. Okay. Not to say that when you're at work, you can't do something good, but you're resting from your economic labor so that you can look at justice, people who are poor, people who needs your gifting. Okay. So now the fifth one is this. So we're practicing Sabbath. John, tell me what to do. Like, okay, you told me to rest, you keep it holy. Do I go to parties? Do I go to movies? Or do I not go to movies? What about grocery shopping? Can I go hiking? So there are all of these rules that we can decide as a church and as Christians, and you can buy into that and you can agree with it or not agree with it. But the tricky thing about Sabbath in the New Testament is largely a matter of conscience and faith. So your Sabbath will inevitably look a little bit different than mine. Okay, and my Sabbath, the way that I celebrate and acknowledge God, will look a little bit differently than yours. And let me just get into that a little bit more. Okay, so in the Old Testament, the law is there. It is there because it's kindergarten time. You know what I mean? Like you need to tell people this is what you need to do. But in Colossians chapter 2, 16 to 23, let me just read it for you. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to festival or new moon or Sabbath. These are a shadow of the things to come. So what Paul is saying is, the Jewish brothers or whoever will celebrate Sabbath and all these festivals in this way. And because you're Gentiles and you don't celebrate it the way that they celebrate it, don't let them judge you. That Sabbath is made for man or woman, not the other way around. There's freedom in Christ, and you can celebrate and honor God in the way that is best for you. So this is sort of the scary part about Christianity, or dangerous part of Christianity, is that we're giving a lot of freedom to people, and you have to decide how to do this thing. Okay, so moving on. These are a shadow of the things to come. So what is the actual thing? It's Jesus Christ. So Jesus is casting a long shadow and saying, celebrate Sabbath in this way to understand who I am. But they're really not the real thing. But the substance belongs to Christ. See that? Let no one disqualify you, insisting on aestheticism and worship of angels. Uh, like being a monk or monkish. I worship angels because Jesus is too great to worship. I honor him and revere him so much that I dare not speak to him. I dare not go to him. I worship angels instead. And Paul is saying all that stuff is just bogus. You got to Jesus, you go straight to Jesus Christ. Okay? Like visions and all these wonderful things, just forget it. You just got to focus on Jesus and not on all of these aestheticism, miracles, and visions and different ways of worshiping. It is up to you. And don't let anyone judge you. That's what he's saying. And not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body nourished and knit together through its joints and ligaments grows with growth that is from God. If with Christ you died to the elemental spirits of the world, why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? So the elemental things and regulations are the law. Okay, do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, or do not see, whatever, according to human perception and teachings. But the way that we want to celebrate Sabbath is, God, you love me so much that you made seventh day a day of rest, and I'm going to celebrate it the best way that I can, that gives me joy and allows me to understand who you are and acknowledge you and give you praise and glory. Okay, so I just want you to know, we will get to more concrete stuff later, but there is no one right way. Arguably, you can say, yes, there is one thing that we all must do, and that is to worship God. But for some, I dare say, and this is the dangerous part of the gospel, not every time, not for every person all the time, that means coming to church at 10:30. Okay, maybe you belong to a health department and ministry, and you have to work on Sundays. So you have to worship maybe Sunday evening or maybe Monday, and you just listen to the sermon and you're trying to figure out how to worship God. So even that, God would say, you're still practicing Sabbath. Isn't that kind of scary and kind of like liberating at the same time, and just kind of like, there's so much room to navigate. Anyway, the important thing is, because we have been given so much freedom through Christ, that we're not tied to elemental things, that we're not tied to human percepts and ideas or human traditions. You really have to examine your heart. So this is not about Sabbath. I'll be clear about that. But Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 6:12, he says, I have the right to do anything, you say. So this is not what Paul is saying, but what Corinthians are saying. But not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything. So you see that, like, there's a danger of like so much freedom in Christ. So Corinthians in Corinth, the Christians are saying, oh my gosh, I have the right to do anything I want. And in this case, I can sleep with prostitutes, I can sleep with my, stepmom, whatever it is, like I can do anything I want in Christ. And that's how far they took it. And these are not random examples. That's what they're actually talking about here. But Paul says, yeah, it's true, but not everything is beneficial. So Paul is not condoning prostitution or anything like that. But so just, don't take this too far. But he says, not everything is beneficial, but I will not be mastered by anything. So if you are a person that says I can do anything I want, I'm just going to really sleep in every Sunday morning and just get up whenever and just click on YouTube and listen to the sermon as I cook myself breakfast, really is late lunch. And I feel good, and this is a freedom I have. I got the rest that I needed. I work 12 hours a day every day. I commute like 4 hours a day. So this is what I want. But Paul is saying you need to examine your heart. Are you really honoring? Are you really acknowledging God, or are you just mastered by convenience and your desire for comfort and physical rest? Because not everything you and I do that are beneficial is zero effort, zero burden. Many of the good things that you and I do, and especially the parents out here, and those of you who are working, whatever, um, you know, it takes a lot of burden, a lot of effort, and just it's not easy. But these are good things that we must do, right? Oh, I see a comment. Yes. The freedom is what makes our decision to follow Christ more significant. And why? Is there a question mark? I don't know. Yes, we are free. And Bible is always kind of like a weird paradox that we are free, yet we're a slave of righteousness. So you got to figure all these things out, because we have so much freedom, but in righteousness, because we're not mastered by our sin. So it really, as I sometimes say, you and I need to be a bit of a theologian and poet, and just meditate on this and chew on this. And it's a Sabbath is for that. You take one idea, one concept, one truth, and you chew on it in the context of, yay, I am saved, right? So now we're getting more and more practicaler. So two things that I want to bring up here is there are things that maybe, even though we have massive amount of freedom, there are things that we need to refrain. Okay, so these are just guidelines. These are not law. These are not what I'm saying and saying at the end, thus says the Lord. But these are guides and principles that will allow us to joyfully rest in the Lord. Okay, so there are things that we must refrain, and there are things that, and I kind of want to use a strong language here, indulge. Like Sabbath keeping is us indulging in something that is physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually pleasurable. Okay, it's not just one-sided, like just pleasure of like the flesh, but it's all of these things. And I want us to celebrate Sabbath, like really indulge in it and experience that joy of practicing Sabbath. Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to refrain? Okay, and have discipline to do so. For some people, it's entertainment. Movies, Netflix. Sunday is not a day to watch sports and get wrapped up in this massive entertainment, or go to theaters, or it just they want to make space somehow, and they feel that cutting out entertainment is one way to do it, and they surrender that entertainment gladly. But during the week, like they enjoy it, right? They watch sports, and they might a lot of the movies, I watch them too, but they're just so incredibly secular now. But yeah, it's one of those guilty pleasures, I guess. But it might be that might be something for you. And of course, the biggest thing that this should have been number two, should have been number one, economic activity. We can bring work home now. We have computer, internet, files are uploaded in the cloud somewhere. I guess when I used to kind of do some edits for photos and stuff like that, like I really don't know how to do it, but that's something like you take one picture and you just keep tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it. Is this better? Is that better? So it's hard to stop doing your work, because you want to get better at it, and you want to progress in it, and you want to make more money. So I really encourage you to refrain from economic activity unless you can help it. There are some jobs where you just have to, like you're a police, you're a nurse or a doctor, like what are you going to do? I believe in Jesus. But in this case, you would say to yourself, God, it is better that I do something good. I have to work weekends. I have to work Sunday every third week, or once a month. I have to work on Sunday. And for me, that's my Sabbath. that I'm bringing healing and Sabbath. And although I'm not a 411 Gordon Baker with my brothers and sisters where I long to be, but I'm in the world and I am giving Sabbath. I'm doing good to the world. And I just want you to really enjoy working on Sunday, healing somebody, doing something that is beneficial for the other. So I want you to have that imagination. This is why I think Christianity is just wonderful. That knowing Christ is so wonderful. That I can meet him anywhere. I can meet him through just about every activity that I encounter. Okay, and Numbers chapter, or I don't even want to quote, but it says, "Don't speak empty words." And it's kind of obscure to say that, and it's kind of weird, but we just say whatever during the week. When you're driving and you're upset, you just say whatever. And with your colleagues that you're close to, you just joke and maybe get a little crass, and you say whatever. And like you talk smack, you exaggerate. But maybe Sabbath, is a day where God calls you to practice speaking good words that heal, words that have meaning, words that are sincere, words that encourage. And actually, the word, the phrase "empty word" in the Old Testament is prophet who lies, who is prophesying anything that comes to his mind and saying, "That says the Lord." So maybe this is a time where you speak to someone the weighty truth that you've been meditating on. Right? In form of encouragement, in form of something. So I'm saying refrain, but at the same time, I'm encouraging you to do something that is also useful. And number 4, I kind of mentioned it. Thank God it's Friday. Let's just get drunk and plastered. And Sunday, oh my gosh, it's the last chance I have to get a little buzzy. But maybe you refrain. For you, refrain from drinking on Sunday is something that you need to look at, because maybe you do that excessively during the week. All right. So maybe these are some of the things that we can really indulge. We rest to make room and space for God, right? So all the things that we refrain from, those are the things that is giving us some room, and practice giving. Is in form of time or money or being present to someone. Give something away. Okay. I don't know why I put eating there, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, so I'm going to skip. But I think I just meant being hospitable, like eating with somebody, taking somebody out for pho, yeah, or hiking. And doing some physical activity, but you're like, oh, wait a minute, Sabbath is a day of rest. But yeah, I think depending on who you are, I will talk about this again later, but hiking can be a place of contemplation for you. So I really encourage you to say, God, being in the nature with our family, this is restful. And worshiping you outdoors, take your family outside and have a Zoom worship outside on Sunday at 10:30. Yeah, and just after worship is over, say hello and goodbye, and just go for a long hike. And I think that would be really wonderful, restful place to worship God. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about is I'm hopefully I'm making this as concrete as possible for you. Yeah, both solitude and fellowship. I agree with you, Joel. Jewish people have created a tradition of resting, like not doing any work. Okay, but I've known people who worked as a nanny, not nanny, molly maid, I suppose, for Jewish people, and she got referred to different Jewish people. So she went around different households, and what she found was that some Jewish people, and I'm not stereotyping them, but the households that she worked at, what they would do is they would eat Friday to Saturday evening and leave all the dishes for her to do on Monday. So Friday to Saturday evening, they're not supposed to do any work, so they'll leave all the dishes in the sink. And Sunday, they feel like, okay, we have a molly maid coming on Monday, so we're gonna leave everything. Um, See that? Like that's resting, but you're kind of disadvantaging somebody, right? You're kind of abusing somebody to come on Monday and do 3 days of work for you because you believe in God. So we want to create a tradition, but not be so bound by it. Be ready to break the tradition that you have made, but at the same time, be ready to discipline, be disciplined enough to practice them for a long time. Okay? So I just want to set that up. So Jewish people, they rest. Mennonites, they party. So they're opposite of Jewish people. Sunday, they get on their horse and buggies and go to somebody's house, and they just have a big, big meal, and everybody's just having a great old time. And that's the place. Sunday is the place when a young man or woman would like each other, and they would have a chaperone in their room, and you know, like they talk, and then that's when the young man would say to a girl, "Can I take you home in a horse-drawn carriage?" And that's how marriage starts, guys. So this is an important tradition for them. It keeps them alive, literally. So third one. Oh, I got a comment. My family sadly do that with Hail. Lead. Yeah. Yeah, just make a new tradition. Maybe doing the dishes in this case would be a good Sabbath, right? Doing something good. So don't get caught in this like one way of celebrating Sabbath. But yet at the same time, I think having something set, a tradition, some structure and guideline is really helpful. So for you as in you, right? You need to create tradition for yourself. Maybe you need to break from fast from working because that's something you do. Maybe entertainment, but this is where it gets awesome and tricky. John Piper, my gosh, why can't I say his name? He talked about Sabbath, like a Q&A thing. And he said something really interesting that I want to share with you. He said, if you are a farmer, your Sabbath might be just sitting around and not doing anything, just resting, even just for a couple of hours. But if you are an accountant who is sitting all day at your desk, maybe Sabbath for you, what gives you joy and then what helps you to commune with God is go for a bike ride or for a hike. So again, Sabbath is left up to your conscience and faith. If it makes you go, oh, I can't do this, I think I'm sinning, you need to stop and examine your heart. But if it gives you sort of freedom, I said continue it and just kind of go deeper into that.